Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Put your seatbelts on, my friend. Tonight, our guest is Sharron Simpson Rouse, a tremendous kidney advocate, and I'm so looking forward to this broadcast. Sharron is an FSGS patient, a kidney transplant patient. She is the founder of Kindness for Kidneys International, a nonprofit organization dedicated to educating, encouraging, and empowering kidney patients and their families. In 2006, she was diagnosed with focal segmental glomerulopathy, FSGS. She was able to control the disease with medications until around 2012 when she began hemodialysis. She later transitioned to peritoneal dialysis. On December 2nd, 2013, she received the gift of life from her sister, Sharron Simpson. And let me tell you, this was an ordeal. What a story we have to tell you about that. Sharron is a very active kidney advocate and volunteers with local kidney organizations to raise awareness on kidney disease issues. She has served on the Kidney Walk Committee for the National Kidney Foundation in the National Capital Area and has been among the top fundraisers for the past several years. She is an ambassador for the American Association of Kidney Patients and a member of their Speakers Bureau. She's in a few other groups too, folks, so be prepared. To expand the scope of her reach, Sharron founded Kindness for Kidneys International, a nonprofit. She lives in Maryland with her husband, Sean, and her daughter, Kayla. Please give a warm welcome to Sharron Simpson Rouse. Sharron, how are you doing tonight?
Hello, Uncle Jim. I am just fine. How are you?
I'm awake, I think.
Happy Friday, everyone.
Yeah, that's right. It's Friday. Um, did I state everything correctly in the introduction?
Yes, you did. You did. And yes, it was perfect.
Okay, thank you. Please tell us a little bit about where you grew up, your education, and your employment experiences.
Sure, absolutely. So I grew up right outside the Washington, D.C. area. I was born in Washington, D.C., but raised about 30 minutes outside of D.C. in Maryland. And I went to school here and graduated from school. I live in a county called Prince George's County, which is in Maryland. And so graduated here. I also went to college at Frostburg State University, which is also in Maryland. It's in Western Maryland, about 2.5 hours from here. And then while at Frostburg, I got my bachelor's degree in early childhood elementary education, and then my master's degree in school counseling. And so from there, I became a classroom teacher. I taught for a few years and then transitioned to being a school counselor. During the time of me being a school counselor, that's when the kidney disease started, and I had to take a respite. And I took 3 years off and just did some lighter jobs that didn't require me to do as much as I did in the school system. And then from there, I went back to work in 2009 as a Title I resource teacher. So we worked with schools with students that were from high poverty situations. And I just resigned from that job after 12 years last June. And so currently I am focused on Kindness for Kidneys and doing some other contractual things. But yeah, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
All right. Um, you are a married lady with children and a husband.
Yes, I am married to Sean. We celebrated 20 years in November. Woo woo. And then my daughter Kyla, she's 16. So she'll be graduating from high school soon and going off to college herself. And I still can't believe that she's 16. It blows my mind that she is at this age. When I was first diagnosed with kidney disease, she was 5 months. So to see her now at 16, it's just a lot has happened in that time period.
Right. They grow up fast, my friend.
Yes.
Very fast. Let's talk about your kidney disease experiences. I understand that you were told your kidneys were failing and you were diagnosed with FSGS around 2006. Can you tell us what were your symptoms at that time? What led you to seek the medical help?
So I had swelling in my legs, and I honestly thought that it was because I worked in the school system, and the night before the swelling had started, and I thought it was because I was on my feet a lot that day. We had back to school night. I'm sure as a parent you remember going to back to school night to just hear from teachers and understand what the year was going to be like. And so I that's what I said, okay, maybe this is because I've been on my feet all day and walking around, making sure parents knew where to go, which classrooms their child should be in, and where they needed to go to find out information. And so I thought it was that. But then when I woke up the next morning, it was almost as if the swelling had begun to rise, and it was in my thighs at that point. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? But I still felt okay. My daughter, again, was 5 months. So I was thinking, well, she's 5 months. And so I'm tired because I'm a new mom and I'm just recently back to work. So I just thought, I was fatigued, but I just thought that was normal. I had a 5-month-old daughter. And I had just gone back to work that August after being off from March to August. And so I thought it was normal. Now the swelling, I knew something was going on, but I really just thought, okay, you're tired. And so I went to work like I typically would. And then I asked the school nurse what he thought was going on. And I said, I woke up this morning, my legs were swollen. It's almost like it's right, like it's almost up through my thighs. And he was the one that said, you need to go to the emergency room right now. And so, yeah, I was like, what do you think is going on? And he said, don't, we're not going to speculate, but just go to the emergency room.
Okay. What was your initial reaction to your diagnosis?
I was shocked. I was in denial. I didn't understand what was happening. When I will say that when I went to the emergency room and I kind of gone over my history, they automatically assumed that I was having a lupus flare. And so I was diagnosed with lupus in 2003. Never really felt like it was lupus, but that's what the doctor diagnosed it as. And I've never had symptoms since that time. And so when the kidney disease issues came about, they thought, oh, okay, your body's changing, it's turning on itself. You just had a baby. A lot of times this happens with people with lupus. And so they were pretty sure when I was at the hospital that that's what it was until they did the biopsy. And then after the biopsy, they said, well, the cell pattern in your kidney is not representative of this being a lupus flare. And they said there's a certain cell pattern that's present when your immune system is attacking your kidneys from lupus. And so they said, this is something different. This is FSGS kidney disease.
Okay. It's my understanding that until about 2012, you were able to control the progress of the disease with medication. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that was like?
Sure. So as soon as I got the diagnosis, when I first went to the hospital, it was almost like it was just like a lot happening at one time. And so the nephrologist thought it was best to put me on immunosuppressant medication so that my kidney numbers wouldn't get worse. And so for about a year, I was on mycophenolate mofetil for, I would say about maybe 6 months, maybe not a year, about 6 months. And I was able to come off of all medication that they were giving me. They also gave me a heavy regimen of steroids. I mean, my face was humongous. I think I was on 60 milligrams at one time. And so I had, I was all the swelling associated with steroids. And so eventually I was able to come off of all of the medications because my numbers had gone down considerably and they looked pretty good. And so they felt like, okay, we're good. And then in 2011, my numbers started to creep back up. So my creatinine started inching back up and it would go up to 2.3, 2.4, and they weren't getting better. And so I started seeking out naturopathic methods. So I started acupuncture and aqua chi and just anything that I could find to help my kidney numbers go down. I started juicing and just doing different things that I thought would help my kidney numbers improve. But unfortunately, they didn't improve. And I ended up in the hospital needing a blood transfusion. And my doctor at the time, he said, I think you need to consider going on dialysis. Now, my nephrologist had already started talking to me about it when my numbers were creeping up. And because I was in denial, Uncle Jim, I didn't go for my appointments to get the peritoneal catheter in. And so I was in denial. I said, no, I want to try some other things. Meanwhile, my nephrologist is saying, hey, because you're working full time, you're young, let's get you in here to get your peritoneal catheter in so that you'll be ready to start dialysis right away. And I kept putting it off and just saying, no, I don't want to do this. This is not, I'm not going on dialysis. I'm not going to do this. And so when I landed in the hospital to get the blood transfusion, I was pretty bad off, and they didn't have time to do a peritoneal catheter because I really needed to start dialysis right away. And so they put the permacath in my chest, and I had to start emergency dialysis at that point.
Okay. Did you have complications or issues while you were on dialysis with your health?
I will say that, so dialysis is pretty hard on my body. Hemo was. And so I did hemo for about a year. And I would say the most that I experienced would be fluctuations in my blood pressure while I was on dialysis. And so, they're flipping your chair up and down and stand up and let's do this and let's not do this. And so that was probably the worst. I mean, of course, I had itching and cramping and things like that, but my blood pressure going up and down while I was on the machine was probably the scariest for me. At one point, there were days where they're like, we may have to call the ambulance because your blood pressure is shooting up. And I was probably about 115 pounds at most during that phase in my life. So it really was pretty hard on my body going through the dialysis. And I kept the permacath in because we found out that my sister was a match relatively early after I started dialysis. So I was thinking, okay, I can keep this in and go right to getting the transplant, but that didn't happen. So we had to go a different route, and that's how I ended up starting peritoneal dialysis because I was still working full time. And so, I said, maybe I need to try peritoneal because the hemo was pretty hard on me. Okay.
How long were you on dialysis total?
I was on for 18 months.
Oof.
Yeah.
That's enough.
I know.
I have a note that in July of 2022, you approached your sister Shante and told her you needed a kidney. When did you begin to seek a kidney transplant, and what steps did you take to try and get there?
So when I was first diagnosed, so it was in July of 2012, and when I first started dialysis, my sister, she knew what was going on, and she's like, "Hey," and my sister's the jokester of our family, so I'll just preface it by saying that. So she's a jokester in my family, and so she's like, "Oh, if you need a kidney, I'll give you a kidney." When she found out I was going to start dialysis, and so I was like, okay. I didn't really ask her. It was more of a joke of how many kidneys do I have? If I can donate, I'll be more than willing to help. And so she went and got tested. I would say maybe a month or so after I started dialysis. And she, from there, found out that she was a match. And so that's when the whole journey began with our transplant journey, because we knew early on that she was a match, and then we had to go through a lot of different obstacles to actually get to the transplant table.
Okay. I have a note that Shante was going through some kind of rough times in her life. And when she saw this opportunity to transplant, she made this her life purpose and committed to be your donor. And the phrase was, no matter what. Was that a fair statement?
Absolutely. It was so much so that I asked her not to do it because there were so many things going on. One, my sister did, I would say, a few months prior to her seeking to be my donor, tried to commit suicide. And so for her, giving me a kidney was a new chance at life for both of us. It was giving her a purpose, and she felt like, after all she had been through with depression and anxiety and things like that, and then the suicide attempt, that this was her reason to stay alive. And by helping to make me feel better, she had her purpose in that as well. And so she was determined. She had 2 bone marrow biopsies, and anything they asked her to do, she went and had it done. So they asked her to do iron infusion, so she went and had that done. They said, okay, well, your hemoglobin levels are borderline, so we're not really sure we want to put you on the transplant table, because if you bleed out or something happens, we don't know that we could save you. And so she said, well, what do I need to do? This is my normal. I've always kind of fluctuated between a hemoglobin level of 9 and 10. So this is my normal. This is how it's always been for me. And, she's like, I feel fine. I don't feel tired or depleted or anything like that. And so they asked her to get a bone marrow biopsy. And I don't know, that's one of the most painful biopsies that you can get, because they're cutting into your bone. And so she agreed to have that done, and that came back normal. And then they wanted her to come up to the actual hospital that we were going to have the transplant in and see their hematologist, because the committee they weren't really sure that they wanted to do this. And so at that point, I think that's when I said, you know what? No, you're not going to get another bone marrow biopsy. You've already sacrificed a lot. At the time, my nephew was 2 years old, so she had a son herself. And I just felt like this is getting to be too much. But she's like, no, we started this process and we're going to end it, and we're going to go through with this. And so she went and had a second bone marrow biopsy. And that too came back normal, that everything was normal with her blood.
Okay. I have a note that you guys learned that Shante was a match in August 2012. Is that correct?
Yes, and it could be shortly before then, but yes, it was towards the end of mid to end of 2012 that we found out she was a match.
When did you receive clearance for your transplant surgery?
So
your first date?
Yes, our first date was in November of 2012. It was the Monday after Thanksgiving. And so we had our surgery date, we did our pre-op, and right before the surgery, the week before surgery, I developed shingles. and so they had to cancel the surgery. I thought it was ironic, though, that we were going to go through with that surgery, and then we were denied the following surgeries. It was really weird. I'm like, we were actually going to be on the operating table in November of 2012 had I not gotten shingles. And so them questioning her blood started in for our next few dates. We were scheduled for January of 2013. And 2 weeks before the surgery, they canceled it and said, we're concerned about her hemoglobin levels. And so that's when the journey with her getting iron infusions and then having to move on to get the bone marrow biopsy started.
Okay. And you were listed at Johns Hopkins. They're kind of proprietary about their testing?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So as I understand it, you had 5 scheduled transplant dates before you actually, as you guys put it, got on the table in the transplant operating room. Is that a fair statement?
That's a very fair statement. It was a roller coaster ride emotionally, as you can imagine. You're thinking you're getting close and you're going to get this kidney, and then it's like, oh no, sorry, we're still questioning this. And so it was an emotional roller coaster to constantly be thinking that you're going to get a kidney and then you're not. But like I said, my sister, she kept me encouraged, and she's like, no, we're going to do this. Let's keep moving. Whatever they're asking us to do, we'll do. And so I would say she was probably more relentless than I was, because after the second or third time, it was kind of like, okay, I'm on the list. Something will come through. They'll call me eventually. And so don't worry about it. And she's like, no, we're gonna go keep going through with this. Whatever they need me to do, I'm gonna do it.
Okay. It's my understanding that on December 2nd, 2013, that's when you actually received a kidney transplant from your sister. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. So December 2nd, 2013, we were probably holding our breath the entire way because we had gone through so many bumps along the way that we weren't sure. So we were, like, okay, we'll believe it's real when we're actually back in the operating room. And so, yes, December 2nd of 2013, we had our transplant.
Were there any complications or issues for you with the kidney transplant?
No, everything went very well. And I didn't have to go into the ICU. That's how well it went.
It's my understanding that you had a 6 antigen match. That's why you didn't have to go into the ICU.
Yes, yes. And they did mention that there was a certain medication that they typically give patients that I didn't have to have. I don't remember what that medication actually is or was, but I think it's, usually we see people with an IV in their neck. And so I must have missed out on that because I didn't have to have that. Thank goodness. And so but the nurse did tell me, like, typically we give a different medicine, but because you all were 6 antigen match and you responded so well, you didn't have to go into ICU or take that particular medication.
Okay. Post transplant, they weren't done with Shante yet. She had an additional surgery to remove a blood clot. Is that correct?
Yes. And she, when she tells her story, she talks about that was the first time that she actually felt fear, was when she was told that she had to go back down there, because I guess her focus the entire time was on me and making sure that I got well. So here she was there telling her the day after surgery, something's not right. We need to do an x-ray. And when they did the x-ray, they saw the blood clot and they said, no, we're going to have to take you back down to take care of this. And she said, that's the first time in this whole journey that I actually felt afraid and fearful about what could happen.
Okay. Tell us currently, how are the both of you doing? How's the transplanted kidney doing right now?
It's doing amazingly well. We celebrated 9 years on December the 2nd. And so I'm just really blessed for each year that we get to celebrate our kidneyversary with both of us still here.
Okay. It's my understanding that Kindness for Kidneys was established, a not-for-profit, on the 5th anniversary of your kidney transplant. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. December 2nd of 2018, we launched Kindness for Kidneys. And Jim, I used to sit in the dialysis chair and just wonder how I would be able to give back. I was blessed with very good nurses and staff that took good care of me during one of the most difficult times of my life. And so I remember just sitting there thinking, like, how can I make a difference? What can I do? The day I walked into a dialysis facility, it changed my life forever. And just seeing the patients and, I was just like, I can't believe I'm here. Like, how is this happening to me? And I was 37 at the time. And so for me, it was just like, what am I doing here? Why am I on dialysis? I mean, and so it just really did something to me, but it changed me forever. And I vowed that based on my experiences that I would do something to help push the needle forward as it relates to kidney disease and kidney disease awareness. When I walked in, I just couldn't believe, okay, we're all sitting here getting dialysis and going through this, but why aren't we talking about it? Like, no one in my family had ever talked about kidney disease or dialysis ever before. I remember seeing it on Still Magnolias when she was getting a transplant from her mother, but that's all that I knew about dialysis. But yet people of color are disproportionately impacted. So it blew my mind that hey, you know, we're all disproportionately impacted in here, yet no one's talking about this or trying to do anything about it. And I think that was the spark. It was just like, you know, whatever I need to do to be a part of this change, that's what I want to do.
Okay. And for the folks out there, to learn more about kindness for kidneys, the site to the website is now screening across the page in the banners. You'll also find in the comments to the broadcast the Facebook page and the Twitter page for Kindness for Kidneys. So, you know, please check it out. You'll be amazed at the things that they are doing, particularly over the holidays. And it's a wonderful, wonderful group. It's an award-winning group. So, you know, if you're in the DC area or elsewhere, be sure you check it out and, you know, give my friend Sharron a big fat shout and tell her Uncle Jim sent you. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. Let's talk about your experiences with kidney advocacies and some of the organizations you volunteer with. What are the local organizations that you work with?
So I've done and I think you mentioned it in the intro. So I participated in the National Capital Area kidney walks here. That's how I started. When I first got diagnosed, I gathered my family together and I said, let's do a kidney walk, you know, and that was our first um time actually doing anything related to kidney disease. My family, like me, we were all shocked when I got the diagnosis. And so we were all learning at the same time because no one in my family that we knew of, you know, from up through my great grandparents had ever been on dialysis or even had kidney disease. So it was new for all of us that this was occurring. And so it was an opportunity for my family to get to understand what was going on as well. So I felt like the kidney walks were a great way for us to do that. It didn't require me to do a lot of talking. It was our family showing up there together and hearing stories of other people. And, you know, it was just a good time and a good feeling. And so we did the kidney walk on in 2012, right after I gotten out the hospital. I was like, you know, let's do this kidney walk. This was well, actually, no, it was before 2012. We did our first one in 2009. And so this was before I started dialysis, but I had been diagnosed with the FSGS. And so that was our first advocacy or even any type of kidney disease awareness activity. And so from there, after I got my transplant, I used to see Dave White post on his Instagram page. And I'm like, what does he do? He's like always showing his socks and he's always on the plane going somewhere. Like, what does he do? I want to know more about what he does because I'd like to be involved. I'd like to give back. And at the time, I knew I wanted to do something, but I wasn't really clear on like Kindness for Kidneys or any of that. All of that kind of came after the fact. And so he connected me to Aaron Kell and Renee Bovacalis through the ESRD Network 5. And so that's where my advocacy efforts began with AAKP. In 2018, I was able to go to my first conference, which was in Florida in June of 2018. And I think I just really just felt at home. I felt at home among the kidney warriors that were there. And so I was like, wow, you know, I left feeling so charged that we launched Kindness for Kidneys in that December. So just a few months later.
Okay. I have a note. You're an ambassador for the AAKP. You're part of their speakers bureau. I saw recently that you participated in the Fun Walk and that also you have recently won the Presidential Award through the American Association of Kidney Patients. Did I leave anything out there?
No, I recently became an ambassador with the American Kidney Fund as well. And of course, some of the things that I participated in have been just like small projects or councils or like patient advocacy groups or things like that whenever it's available. Anytime that I get a chance to spread awareness, I'm down. I'm like, yeah, sign me up. And so there may be, like, for the ESRD Network 5, there that we meet annually to just give feedback from the patient perspective to help them move forward. And so I am a part of that patient advisory council, and just participate in any other activities as called upon.
Okay. I saw that you recently attended the American Kidney Fund's DC Education Day programs on October 29th.
Yes.
Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes, it was really fun. I joined AKF during the pandemic, and I just wanted to be able to connect with another organization. I feel like, connection is key in us really raising awareness. And so by connecting with organizations like AAKP, AKF, NKF, we're able to expand our reach, and actually, together we make more noise, I feel. And so, we had a great time, and just being able to finally meet people in person for once. I'd seen everyone on Zoom, but to be able to actually see actual faces and have conversations, it was really, really a good event. And they did some training sessions where they talked about how to tell your story and ways that we could advocate, and even some of the Capitol Hill days that would be coming up, and helping us to craft letters to different senators about various issues and bills that are out there or that may be coming up.
Okay. I noticed that you've given quite a few interviews to other broadcasters like myself. Second Chance Group, Kidney Trials, your interview, I Am My Sister's Keeper, which I thought was a really cool one, particularly the
Thank
part
you.
2. Can you talk to us about the interviews that you've done in the past?
Anytime, and one thing that I've vowed, Uncle Jim, is that as long as I have breath in my body, that I'm going to be an advocate, and I'm going to speak out on behalf of kidney warriors everywhere. And I find by sharing my story, I'm able to do just that. I'm able to share. I'm able to, influence my circle. And so any opportunity that I have to get to do that, I try to take advantage of it. So both shows were very educational. Kidney Trails had a whole conference that lasted several days, and so it was nice for us to be a part of that. I know the team worked very hard to put that together, and it was a really, really informative event. And then Second Chance, they have their shows that they do as well. And so anytime I'm able to be a part of something bigger than me, I enjoy doing it.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about some of the things that you do through Kindness for Kidneys. I noticed that you do support groups through Kindness for Kidneys. I think you have one set December 18th, holiday fun. You've had my buddy Patrick G on to speak, and some of my other friends as well. You're doing a Kidney Christmas, both spelled with a K, event. Apparently you've done that December 11th with our friend Steve Belcher. You have a 5th annual holiday drive that you're doing where you're delivering meals with Nurture by Nature, kidney-friendly meals with winter accessories to local dialysis facilities and to the Children's Hospital. And by the way, folks, all the things that we're talking about, there are links to all of these things in the comment to the broadcast and in the YouTube broadcast in the actual description. Why do you stay so busy, Sharron? You're knocking them stiff.
I feel like I just think it's the motivation and passion behind what I've been through and the difference that I want to leave and the mark that I want to leave in this space. And so we do these things because I never want to forget how I felt sitting in the dialysis chair, how I felt when I got my diagnosis, how I felt when I went through the transplant journey. And so that's the fuel behind it is that, there are people out here that are suffering. There are people out here that are going through some really difficult times with kidney disease and dialysis, and they're going at it alone. And so any way that we can bring some sort of education, encouragement, and empowerment, we're doing it. And so many times, and I feel like with our organization, some of the smaller organizations, we are the boots on the ground. And so, we're a little bit more accessible than maybe an NKF, because they're a large organization. And so I feel like we're that connector. So yes, they have resources and things that we refer our kidney warriors to, but some of the hands-on things and some of the encouragement that's needed throughout their daily lives, we're able to provide that. And so the support groups is a way that we do that. We actually started the support groups the week that COVID started. So March 8th of 2020, we had an in-person meeting. It was our first one. We had planned to do the meetings at our local library here, because we felt like in the Southern Maryland area, there weren't many resources for families. And so we started at our group. And then, of course, the next week we had to shut everything down and not have it the following month. And so that's how we transitioned to doing it on Zoom. And that's actually been a blessing, because people join us from other places around the world as well. And so, we've enjoyed being able to tune in with, Mr. Ed that's in Arizona, or Glenda that's in Washington, or Janice in Florida. And so we're all coming on together. And our goal with the support group is to provide information so that our kidney warriors are armed with what they need to make informed decisions about their health care. With our Christmas drive, it really started. It's interesting how our Christmas drive has grown, because I really started with just wanting to go back to my facility with some of the people that I was on dialysis with, some of the friends that I made, and encourage them. As you know, the holidays are a time of reflection for many people, and many people experience all kinds of feelings during the holiday time. Sometimes it's depression, sometimes it's feeling lonely. And so it was important for me to go back during the holiday time, because I remember what I felt like sitting in the chair during the holidays. And I don't know what it was about the holidays, but it really just caused me to reflect. And sometimes I would feel down, and just like, you never know how you're going to feel getting off the machine and going to be with your family, if you're going to be too tired. And so I really wanted to just go back to encourage the kidney warriors at my former dialysis facility that, hey, we're in this together. We're here for you. We're a support system for you. And, if there's anything that you need, we're here for you. And so that was our first initiative in 2018 when we launched, was just to be able to go back and provide support and encouragement. And what we did is we collected donations from the local dialysis. We collected donations from the community. I apologize. And from that, we took those to the facility, to my facility, and sang Christmas carols as they were entering and exiting the facility. And so it just really did my heart proud to see kidney warriors smiling as they walked in and out. Many times we're labeled, and I think Steve Belcher says this often, that many times kidney warriors are the forgotten ones. The ones that you don't really hear much about, just kind of like, okay, what do they really do in that space? And so this is a way of letting them know that we do see you, and we are out here to advocate for you. And we want you and your family to have a wonderful holiday season. And so this year, for our 5th annual drive, we are collecting winter accessories, so hats, scarves, gloves, and socks, as well as toys for children on dialysis. And so this year I've partnered with Chef Alana. You probably know Alana Carroll. She's a 2-time kidney transplant recipient, but she's recently launched her nonprofit, Nurture by Nature. And it's a meal service that she's created, that she's going to be able to provide some kidney-friendly meals to kidney warriors. And so we rented a food truck, and we're going to pack up. We did pre-orders and we sent out the menu to the different facilities that we're working with this year. And the warriors put their orders in, and so she's going to make all the food and package it and put the dry ice and things to keep it fresh. And then we're going to deliver the meals along with the care packages with the winter accessories in it during the holiday. Actually, next week we'll be going and driving around to the different facilities that we've worked with. And so it started in 2018 with 1, and now we're up to 8 facilities and children's hospitals, so 9 different places. But I can't tell you, Uncle Jim, how good it makes me feel to be able to do this. And what happens is we can collaborate with the community to make it happen. And so while we're collaborating, we're also spreading awareness. And so this year we partnered with several businesses that agreed to be donation collection sites. And so they would put we put boxes in their facility, in their businesses, and then we had statistics about kidney disease as well that they hung up, so that as people were coming into their establishments, they were able to see information about kidney disease, maybe information that they didn't know, and were able to shed some light on kidney disease while they were dropping off their donation items. And so we're super excited about this year. It was a huge undertaking, of course, but again, I look forward to seeing the smiles on the faces of the kidney warriors that we service, and even their staff members, all of them, they feel just so happy that we're able to bring some sense of happiness or some sense of joy into the facility.
Okay. Let's talk about some of the work that you have done concerning disparity in healthcare. I understand that you're part of a group, the National Coalition of 100 Black Women, Inc., talking about the truth about kidney disease and the Black community disparities, COVID support resources, and recently you've spoken with AAKP immediate past president Richard Knight. Is that correct?
Yes. So I'm not a member of the group, but we were fortunate enough to start to have conversations about disparities that we see in the Black community. And as you know, African Americans are disproportionately impacted by kidney disease. And so although we're 13% of the population, we represent 35% of the population of those that are impacted by kidney disease. And sometimes communities of color may not have access to some of the care that maybe other communities do. And so by bringing this to the forefront, by sharing information with others, by ensuring that they are aware of what kidney disease is and how we're all impacted, is a part of some of the initiatives that I've been fortunate enough to be a part of.
Okay. A few rapid fire events, because I promised I'd get you in and out of here in an hour. I noticed you're doing some work with the silver sponsor for 2022 holiday group, the American Iron Workers, that back on November 29th, you did an Instagram Live. You've done some work with caregiver fatigue people and the Smile Therapy services. Am I correct about those things?
Yes. Yeah. So those were speaking engagements and opportunities. So the sponsorships, American Iron Workers is one of our sponsors each year for our holiday drive. And they also, they're very consistent in their support for changing the narrative surrounding kidney disease here in the DC area. And so they since the time we started the drive in 2018, they've been an advocate and a sponsor for us. And so we do have several other sponsors that are joining in as well. But it's just been an honor to be able to partner with businesses because as we partner, we're also spreading that awareness and shedding light on things that are going on in our community. And many of times businesses are unaware of, many don't know what the statistics are in their state or in their city or their area or their community. And so by partnering with businesses, it allows us to be able to share some information so that not only do they know about it, but hopefully they'll join in with us to be a part of the solution.
Okay. All right. I want to know, where can I get my Kindness for Kidneys T-shirt or coffee mug or other merchandise? Where can I find that stuff?
Sure. So everything is on our website. If you go to www.kindnessforkidneys.org, and if you go to merch, you'll see our Kindness for Kidneys merchandise as well as our Take a Stand collection. So last year we launched a Take a Stand collection, and the premise behind that was that in life we're always going to have difficult situations that may arise, but the difference is in how we handle those situations. And so we created shirts that have "Hello, my name is," and they're different words, different empowerment words that are on the shirt. So one says, "Hello, my name is resilient." "Hello, my name is perseverance." And with the Take a Stand collection, it's about taking a stand for who you are and how you show up in the world. And so by taking a stand, it could be, "Hey, I'm resilient, and that's how I stand." With my sister, overcomer, she's overcome a lot of things in her life. She overcame a lot to be able to be my kidney donor. And so these are our Take a Stand collections are just encouraging people to take a stand for those things that they believe in, to take a stand for what they want to get out of their situation and not necessarily what they're facing in their situation.
Okay, just put a picture up showing you and your sister in that shirt.
Yes.
Okay, if I can get this to work right. Don't do things you can't fix, Jim. Talk to us about some of your more recent programs or initiatives.
Sure. So, in addition to our holiday drive and our support group, we recently received a grant through our local county, Prince George's County, to launch an education program for those that are on dialysis. And so, with the grant is through our local Impact Council, and that council provides resources to nonprofit groups who are doing initiatives within a 6-mile radius of our MGM casino. And so we submitted for that grant, and we were awarded funds to be able to launch our education program. And so I wanted to provide a hands-on interactive education program for not just the patients, but for their caregivers. I feel like a lot of times the caregivers are left out, yet they're the ones that are responsible for taking care of their loved one, especially if their loved one is not in a position to care for themselves. But many times they are oblivious to what to do, what their loved one is supposed to eat, how they're supposed to operate. They're clueless, and many times they're ones that they don't get the information as their loved one does. And so, but they're expected to be able to cook for them and do those types of things. And so our education program includes the patient and up to 2 care partners. It's a 5-week interactive program that's designed to talk about issues like mental health and preparing for transplantation, how to overcome, some of the obstacles that you face when you're on dialysis. And so we just launched that. We're actually excited to kick off our first session in the new year. And yeah, we're going to see how it goes. I mean, we have families that are super excited about joining our education program. And although it's going to be information, we're going to be heavy on the empowerment piece. Because once you're empowered to really take an active role in your healthcare, things can change and do change. And so we want to not just give information, but we also want to connect them with resources in the community and empower them to keep going in the journey.
Okay. Concerning Kindness for Kidneys, what program or initiative are you the most proud of?
I would say the education program. Even though we're just starting this out and this is a pilot for us and really seeing some things that we really want to do in the future, I'm proud that we're starting, proud that we're kicking this off, and I'm excited about the opportunities that will come from our patient education program. So I would say I'm most proud of that accomplishment.
Okay. We're in the home stretch here, Sharron. Before we conclude the broadcast for the evening, Do you have any final statements or remarks that you would like to make?
Sure. So first I want to thank you, Uncle Jim, for having me on. I've heard about your show. I know you've received numerous awards for your show, and so I'm just honored to be a part of your guest speaker bureau and those that have been able to grace your podcast. I'm really, really honored, and I appreciate all of the work that you're doing. I don't know how you do it all. I mean, you have 1,000 groups up that you manage, and you manage them well. And I'm like, how in the world is he doing this? But I appreciate you taking time out on a Friday to hear my story and to just be a part of the conversation with you. So I want to thank you for that. And I just want to encourage those that are we're going through some pretty heavy times in our society. And so I just want to encourage you to keep going, to keep going. There is going to be light at the end of the tunnel of whatever it is that we're facing. And I know sometimes it seems so dark and seems like the tunnel won't end, but I want to encourage those that are watching that there is going to be light at the end of the tunnel, and that you are here for a purpose, and your purpose is far greater than anything that you could imagine. And so my message tonight is to keep going. Don't stop, don't quit, don't cave in, but to keep going to see what the end is going to be. Many times we get caught up in our processes because the processes can be so difficult. But just want to encourage anyone that's watching tonight that's having a hard time. Maybe you've lost a loved one and you're being tormented by how the holidays are going to be for you, but just want to encourage you to keep going no matter what, and to face those dark days as best you can, and wake up and hope for a better day each day. And so thank you again, Uncle Jim.
Oh, well, you're more than welcome. I'm very fortunate to have a friend like you that come on and talk to us and raise awareness and help educate us. And you do things. I'm just amazed at the number of initiatives and projects that you have going, and I'm equally amazed at how many of them are so successful. So I'd just like to thank you for taking time to come on and speak with us. So that's the end of our broadcast tonight, Sharron. 53 minutes and 10 seconds. So I managed to keep it under an hour.
We made it.
I have a few things I need to take up with our audience, so I can let you go at this point in time. And I just wanted to say thank you, and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, have a great holiday, and I will be working very hard to make sure this broadcast gets shared and people see it.
Thank you so much, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you. I pray that you and your family are blessed during this holiday season. Thank you.
I appreciate that very much, Sharron. Well, that's our broadcast for tonight, folks. Next week, your Uncle Jim is taking the week off. The following week, we're doing a replay of the Wendy Crowder broadcast. We're going to be playing that on Facebook so that everybody gets a chance to see it. And then, of course, after the first of the year, I've got broadcasts from January to March that we're booked. And I'm always trying to find new folks to come and talk to us. And I'll be working on some experts over the week before Christmas, because it's like the only time I get a chance to do it. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. We will get the replay up and running, so you can check it out if you've missed the original broadcast tonight. So I just wanted to say good night, happy holidays, and I appreciate you taking time to come and see us. So you have a good evening, my friends.